Hello, everybody. I want to welcome you back to the Dynamic Decisions podcast, where we explore the strategies that drive successful decision making in the world of business. Why? Because the best decisions come from great conversations. I'm your host, Teasha Cable, CEO of C Model Data, and today we have a distinguished leadership expert who's an executive coach and a keynote speaker. His name is John. He's a managing partner at John Spence. And with over 31 years of experience, he specializes in coaching, training programs on sales strategy and strategy facilitation for global organizations. He's worked with top clients like Apple, Microsoft, Coca-Cola, and IBM, and holds prestigious roles, including Fulbright specialist and instructor at leading business schools. So, John, thank you so much for being here. I want to welcome you to the show. Would you tell everybody a little bit more about you and about your business?
Wow. Well, thank you for the wonderful intro. So we'll do the quick background. I get asked this from time to time. For failing out of college on the first try, attended the University of Florida, or actually I went to a small community college, got in the University of Florida, graduated number 4 in the United States in my major, and was named CEO of an international Rockefeller Foundation when I was 26. That for about 6 years. Then I left to become the CEO of a global strategy and sales training firm. And after a few years there, I went independent, and I've been doing that now for 28 years. On a good year, I travel about 220 days worldwide.
Wow. First of all, wow. And what I really love about the story that you just told is that it's not one of perfection. It's one.
No.
Right? It ends, though, on a super high note. But I love that it's not like this. I came out of the womb ready to roll.
No, I'm still making lots of mistakes. I promise you.
So really, you've been out here training folks for over 3 decades, helping to bring people along strategically in all kinds of organizations. What do you think is the most critical leadership quality that organizations actually need to cultivate today in order to have an organization that's going to thrive when everything around you is changing as quickly as things are changing today?
Well, the single most important leadership quality, bar none, is honesty. End of discussion there.
Boom.
Now, when you talk about being able to handle and there's some others, what I call non-negotiables. But when you look at today, what a leader is facing, I believe there's 3 quotients that it takes to be successful as a leader now and in the future. The first one is IQ, and I don't mean the number here, I mean competence. Are you really good at what you do? And are you good at your leadership skills? So IQ is competence. EQ is your emotional intelligence. And one of the we do a lot of research on this, and I've got a lot of real life work on it. As you move up the chain in an organization, EQ becomes between 5 and 7 times more important than IQ. You've got to be good at what you do, but you must be able to work well with and through other people. But to answer your question, I think it's the third quotient, which is AQ, which is your adaptability or agility quotient. And there's multiple parts to that, but the 2 that I like the most, number 1 is learning agility, which is the ability to learn quickly. I love this part, unlearn quickly, and then relearn. So learn, unlearn, relearn. And then the second one is, I don't like the way I frame it, cognitive flexibility, which is to be able to change your mind, look at things from a different point of view. Maybe I wasn't right here. Based on the learning, unlearning, and relearning, I have to be flexible enough to change my thinking, change my belief system, change the way I approach things. There's a few more, but I think those are the 2 most critical factors.
I think the one around changing your belief system is the one that's resonating with me a little bit right now, because that's where a lot of people end up falling short. The inability not just to change course on a specific action, but to change fundamentally what you believe, like a real true mindset shift. Would you talk a little bit about some of the challenges that people might face as they try to have a mindset shift and really think about it through the lens of a business leader? And maybe give an example of some of the areas where this might be absolutely necessary, but really difficult.
Mostly it's because they're not exposing themselves to enough new ideas. And enough new ideas, not only in reading, studying, learning, listen to podcasts, but in diversity of opinion around them. Welcoming people that disagree agreeably. Microsoft has a great one. People are safe, ideas are not. So the ability to listen to things that they don't agree with, things that might be pushing back against their actions or their beliefs, and welcome those ideas and have the humility to back up. Well, I remember in my own career, when I was 33, I was doing a lot of very high level consulting at Fortune 100 companies. And I was positive that I was right. I would stand toe to toe with the CEO and prove I knew what I was doing. Until one day I woke up and realized I have no idea what I'm doing.
Right.
And that was a big mind shift for me of having to have all the answers. I'm supposed to be the smartest guy in the room. They're paying me a lot of money, to realizing I've got an opinion. It's well researched and thoughtful and based on a lot of experience, but it's still just an opinion. So I think that leaders need to cross that threshold of, I'm fairly good at what I do, but that doesn't mean I can't get better. And that doesn't mean that the folks around me aren't smarter, better, sharper, talented in other areas, maybe that I'm weak. And we complement each other. We don't compete. And I'll give you a really good example of this, and it goes to our discussion today about decision making. Is early in my career, I'm 61 now. And then I'll tell you, when I turned 55, I made up a saying for myself. I now realize I know very little about almost nothing and nothing about almost everything else. But earlier in my career, I was not a data, but a facts guy. Give me the numbers, give me the information, make it binary. It's a yes or a no, no guessing, no ambiguity here. And people go, well, trust your gut. Give me a break. Trust your gut. And then I realized, I'm huge. I've built my whole career on pattern recognition, which is another very, very fundamental idea to excellent decision making. I realized that intuition is just reverse pattern recognition. It's looking back over the things that have happened to you over the years and realizing that the reason you feel a little off or you can make a decision is because you've seen the pattern up to now and you're anticipating the pattern going forward. And as soon as I was able to make the mind shift from trust your intuition, or intuition as a gut feel, to intuition is reverse pattern recognition, I'm like, I love intuition.
Right.
I'm a highly intuitive person. I trust my gut, and I got plenty of it.
You just turned it into data. There we go. Boom.
Like, okay, this works for me now. I love it.
Yeah, I like that. Okay, I'm laughing because I'm thinking about myself right now. Like you just gave me a lot of me in that moment. Can you tell me a little bit about, so one of the things that you do is you do this work around strategic thinking facilitation. So you help these leaders and these teams to really clarify their direction and then align their strategy. And we know that there's an abundance of decisions that happens in these processes. Can you share how you actually approach facilitating these kinds of sessions, but making sure that teams not only decide on like clear priorities, but that they also know how they're going to execute those effectively? Okay, so I just got off the phone with a client that's hired me to do this. And I said, I'd like to make a differentiation here. They always call them strategic planning retreats. You're not making the plan in the retreat. It's a strategy retreat. I call them strategic thinking retreats. We're not there to decide the specific plan. We're just there to decide the direction of the organization. So there's a couple things around that. And I'll bring it down to one key idea. Not one, but I got a couple. But a big one is, a big part of strategy is the allocation of scarce resources, which is just making a decision about what we're going to do and what we're not going to do. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of organizations struggle with the what we're not going to do part. But here's a shiny red ball, and here's a squirrel, and here's a project, or we have too much sunk cost in that. We've already spent $1 million. But does that mean we need to lose another $1 million? Maybe that's something we say no to, we walk away from. So a big part of strategy, I created a new outline on business excellence, a new framework. And one of them, the ones is my pillars there, is focused innovation. And that idea is figure out what you do really, really, really well and innovate like crazy there. Get better and better and better. Create more distance between you and your competitors. And do not change your strategy unless the market demands it. As I work with LiveWire, we're having another planning meeting. We've got to come up with a whole new plan. No, you don't. I've got some clients, I've done their strategy work for 9-10 years. The strategy has not changed, or very, very little. Their market's the same. They're very successful. They understand the fundamentals. They know what to say no to. They make great decisions based on that. So it doesn't have to have all the bells and whistles and 100 other things. It's interesting. People think we need to be number one. That's hard. And it's hard to maintain. Number 2, 3, or 4 and highly profitable
is a really good place to be as far as I'm concerned.
I think that what happens is, going back to the beliefs, I think what happens is people get mixed up. It's really hard to say no to something if you fundamentally believe that that's the right and only way to do something. So it just kind of reminds me of how people get stuck.
Uh-huh.
And we often get stuck in those spots. I just want to ask you about, so you, as a Fulbright specialist, really advising global institutions, how do you think about incorporating cross-cultural collaboration and knowledge exchange into the programs that you develop, specifically around leadership development? And this all at some point ties back to decision making. So for the audience, don't get confused. We're still on the decision making topic, but these are the things that sit behind decisions.
So here, I got asked this question not too long ago. Leadership at its core, as far as I'm concerned, has some things that never change. Honesty, the courage to make big decisions, also the courage to be vulnerable. Excellent communicator, which means being able to talk and express yourself, but really being curious, asking great questions, and listening. So those things are cross-cultural to some level. So to me, it is honoring the different cultures. It's one of the things about Americans. We're very ethnocentric. We think that everybody in the world should be like us. Then you go to China or Japan or Germany or Mexico, or Canada, which are places I work a lot, and their approach to business is dramatically different than ours. And years ago, I helped run a company in Mexico, and I'm trying to put this politely, we had set aside some money to give to people in town to make things happen. And I went to my business partner and said, we don't do that. We don't give people money to make decisions. He said, you're in Mexico now. That's part of the way their business culture works. And I fought it for a little while. And then I realized, no, that's the way the culture works here. Just like there's different things in Japan, they're not going to make a decision today. It'll take them a year to make a decision. And they'll receive a contract. I've heard this before. This is most interesting. We are studying it carefully. We will be back to you, which means I just threw it in the garbage.
This is most interesting.
So, you have to honor that. But at some level, leadership is leadership. It's like one of the things, I see the same problems in companies all over the globe. It's the exact same problems, just more zeros. Apple has the same problems that Bob's tire shop down the street does that has 20 employees. There's just a lot more zeros at Apple.
Levy, this is most interesting. Yeah. So let's stay in this area a little bit. Would you be able to share any examples of how some of the leaders that you've worked with have successfully built really resilience in their businesses to navigate through disruptions, market changes? And then are there any practical steps that you would recommend now to leaders who might be needing to really strengthen their team's adaptability? And really, I know you have the leadership, the quotient, and one of them is adaptability. So yeah, tell me a little bit.
So a couple things. The change is coming whether you like it or not. There's a great quote by General Eric Shinseki. If you don't like change, you will like irrelevance even less. So part of it is understanding John Kotter, and I don't quote a lot of scholars or whatever. John Kotter's the world's leading expert on change management. He has an 8-step process. And step number 1 is, he calls it create a sense of urgency. I call it create an irresistible case for change. So you have no choice. You just got to do this. So part of it is understanding as a leader or helping your company understand, we don't get to say no to this. AI is coming whether you like it or not.
Come on, it's here.
You cannot fight this. You can fight it if you want to, and then you're in a thing called bankruptcy. Ow, how exciting. So, and then, the other idea is that leaders have to be able to, let's put it this way. Resilient organizations are built on resilient people. You can try to make it resilient, but if you work on the resiliency of the individuals, by default, you end up with a more resilient organization. Does that make sense?
It does, 100%. Yeah, because the organization is made up of people. Absolutely.
People do everything.
People do everything. So again, I'm going to keep going along this path. So one of the things that I'm really impressed with about is the diversity of just your experiences. You've also been involved with multiple prestigious organizations and institutions like the Wharton School and America's Credit Unions as example. How do you actually go about tailoring your leadership and your strategic programs to meet the unique needs of different industries and different whole org cultures? I mean, earlier we talked about org culture, but in this way, from your lens, as someone leading these organizations down the route path, how do you do that?
Well, it's changed in the last few years. It used to be a lot of conversation. I do a lot of customization. I mean, as I just said, there are some things that never change. So there's something when I teach a leadership program, pretty much regardless of industry, there's going to be 8 or 10 things that are exactly the same. However, I do a lot of conversation, used to do a ton of conversations with my clients, ask questions, study their industry, study their competition, talk to other people that have worked with them. And I still do a quite a bit of that, but everything's changed now with artificial intelligence. I can do more research on a client in an hour than I used to be able to do in a week.
Yes.
And then I've created a lot of custom chatbots. I've been working for in the credit union industry now for about 18 years. I run one of their top leadership programs called the Management and Leadership Institute. We bring in a little bit over 100 of their top people in the credit union industry that are slated to become CEOs or C-level. But I'll give you a downside to AI, and we'll talk about this from a decision-making standpoint. AI basically has 4 levels. Level 1 is data. It's just numbers. It's meaningless. Data. Number 2 level is information. That's when you begin to organize the data and you're starting to create spreadsheets and, things like that. We're putting the data in buckets. The 3rd level is knowledge. And this is where AI is analyzing and giving you guidance, giving you feedback, making recommendations, which is what I use it for a lot of my clients. But it ends there. The next one is wisdom, which is only what people can do.
People. You just spoke all my language. You can't be stealing my thoughts and words like this, okay? You just can't do. You can't take my message and put it in your mouth. No, sir.
Well, let me give you the downside of that now.
Okay, go for it.
The knowledge is only useful if you understand the topic.
Come on, let's go.
I was asked to do a major keynote address for 3,000 people in an industry I knew almost nothing about.
Come on.
And they asked me to customize it heavily. So I went to school. I mean, I studied, I analyzed, I created reports. I'm like, I'm going to step on that stage. I'm going to know more than anybody else there. It's going to be awesome. And I sent the report to my client before I presented it. And she said, where'd you get these numbers? None of them are right.
Right.
I went, what? She goes, I've never seen numbers like this for our industry at all.
Right.
But I have this big report. She goes, go find the citations. And I went and looked, and there were no citations. It was a hallucination.
Yeah.
Problem is, because I didn't understand the industry, I didn't understand the information was wrong.
Come on.
So now when I use AI, use it on things that I know very, very well, like leadership or strategy or culture or high performance teams. So I can see when there's an anomaly. And then I have to ask myself, is that anomaly that's something I didn't know or understand, or is this a hallucination? So then I get to go jump and do the work on that. Here's what I find: about 90% of the time, it's going to tell me roughly what I already know, or it's going to mention things that I understand are correct. About 10% of the time, I'm going to see something I've never seen before, and it's either going to be, wow, this is going to be super helpful. I never thought of this, or that really doesn't, which one of these things does not belong here? No, that's not going to work.
Yeah. So I think people mistake artificial intelligence as wisdom. I think they believe that it's not a mathematical algorithm that's picked up all the words and put them all together in patterns, as opposed to, I've sat in a room, I've experienced something, I understand what this looks like. And so when I'm seeing an outcome that doesn't match, I can go, oh, that isn't the thing. And most people are able to do that in their own industries or their own little companies or their own spaces. Most people can do that. But so that's where your misuse of artificial intelligence actually comes in. So that's a really, really great point. And thank you for making it plain and clear on this show. It also leaves space for people like consultants and people who have deep expertise in particular places to come in and say, while it's true, you can use AI for a number of things. What you still need is a person who sat in the room and understood something to come in before you execute and ensure and validate the information that you're looking at, dependent upon how high the stakes are in what you're doing. So that's really good stuff. All right, I want to move into my very favorite segment of this thing. I'm going to, and I already have some ideas in my head because of everything that you said to this point. I'm going to assess your decision-making persona. We're going to explore your style, and it's through this assessment. So I'm going to ask you 4 different questions that represent different decision-making approaches. And after each one of them, you're going to tell me how much the way I'm asking the questions resonates with how you actually approach decisions. And you'll have this scale of 0 to 100%. But here's the key. You only get 100% across all 4 questions. And no, you can't say 25, 25, 25, 25, right? Yeah. Because that wouldn't be real.
So we're already going to do the first decision. Ready? That's hard to do it if I don't know what the next 3 questions are.
Exactly. That's what makes it fun.
Okay.
That's what makes it exciting.
Great. Yes. I love that. My first decision would be, could I hear the 4 questions so I can decide how to allocate this?
Of course you would. So does every other leader who joins this podcast. And the answer is always no, because then it just takes the fun out of it for me and the audience. Here's your first one. It's called the feeler. It's a values-driven leader. This persona prioritizes alignment with core values and mission, often weighing the human impact and cultural fit of decisions alongside business metrics. So when considering a new leadership initiative or strategic plan, I ask myself, does this align with our core values and mission, ensuring we create a positive impact beyond just financial results? Even if a more aggressive approach might yield faster gains, I need to feel confident that we're building sustainable leadership and culture that lasts. How much of you does that resonate?
And I haven't heard the other 3 ones. I'm going to give that one 100%. We're done.
No, we're not done. That's not how this works.
From my standpoint, my leadership philosophy personally, if it violates my values, I'm not going to do it. If it violates, it's honesty. My highest value is honesty. We've said it, people. I had the great privilege of working for one of the richest men in America for a while. And when I worked with him, 93 companies. And I had to play. He was in his 80s, and he had a private dining room attached to his office, and I had lunch with him there. And I asked him the same question I ask every uber successful person I meet: what is the secret to success? He didn't even hesitate. Looked right at me and he went, John, it's all about people. You can kid yourself about a lot of things, but at the end of the day, it's all about your people. If I make a decision that runs in contradictory to my values and the values of the organization, I've just told everybody that works there, we don't care about being honest.
Come on.
We don't care about our values. We don't care about focusing on our customer. Because if I'll violate this value, I would violate any of the values. So I'm being a little facetious, but if it doesn't match my core values and the core values of the organization, then it should be from a decision-making standpoint, it should be really easy. Yes or no? Does it match the values or doesn't it? So now that I've blown all 100 points,
we'll just do the other ones for fun.
Yeah, for fun.
Let's see what happens after we get through the next ones. I totally get it. Here's the next one. It's called the planner. It's a strategic visionary. So this persona focuses on long-term implications and future-proofing decisions, always thinking several moves ahead and considering multiple scenarios. So when making strategic decisions, I ask myself, what are the long-term implications of this choice for leadership development and organizational growth over the next 5 to 10 years? I need to ensure that our plans are adaptable to changing market conditions and evolving business models.
It would be the rare company that could look out 10 years, even 5 years. Most of the companies I work with now, we look at about 18 months. So a lot of it depends on industry. If I was in a very staid industry selling ball bearings, which actually, no,
not today.
Wiped out. Tariffs would hit him.
That's right. Not today.
Skyrocketed.
Come on.
So the long-term planner, I'm not going to give too many points to that because long-term is maybe 18 months. Yeah. And it also depends, and I'll use one of my decision-making tools. I look at probability and impact. What is the probability that something might go wrong? And what is the impact if it did? The only places I believe in doing long-term scenario planning is high probability, high impact. for example, I live in Florida. I will get hit by a hurricane.
Mhm.
I don't know if it's this year or 5 years from now, but I have a generator and blah, 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 blah. But there aren't a lot of other things in business, especially look at the last 10 months where everything has been turned on its head. So I'm not a big fan of number two. We're tossing the long-term planner out the window.
All
I have
right,
a
there it
plan
is.
for that person. They're no longer helping us.
You're out of here. It's gone. It's done. It's over. Cool. All right. Here's the next one. It's called the counter. Challenger of assumptions. So this persona naturally questions conventional wisdom and looks for contrarian opportunities, often finding success by zigging when others zag. So when evaluating leadership strategies or training programs, I ask myself, what assumptions are we making that might be outdated or limiting? What innovative approaches can we adopt that challenge the status quo and drive breakthrough results?
Okay, so you asked me which decision-making style. I believe you said this isn't a decision-making style, in my opinion. It's a style of a good decision-making group.
There you go. So the problem that I'm having with you right now, to be honest, is that you're just all up in my business. Okay?
I spent 30 years at this. I should know something.
Business.
For those of you that are listening to this, you don't see the clips. I have about 3,000 books in my office behind me. Yeah, I've been reading 100 business books a year since 1989. So I have a little bit of a pattern recognition here.
Here I was thinking I was on to something and exposing the world to something new. So this is absolutely correct. Like the intention here behind this particular area is not that this is just you, right? But these are actually the personas that should be around your table.
Absolutely. I want the devil's advocate I've got one that I work with that he knows what direction he wants to go in, but he's going to ask the questions as much as he can, or he's going to poke people. I don't think that's, maybe we need to look at it another way. Even though he agrees with him, he's still going to be the one going, I don't know about that. That person is valuable on your team.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And so I'm laughing because usually by the time you get to the end, someone realizes like I am personally at this state, but yes, my organization looks like X, but usually we go through the exercise. So I love it that we're reading and we're studying and we understand.
Well, I still have one I could mess up here. So
here we go. Here's the last one, but here's the thing though. I already know what you're going to say here, but that's okay. So let's go for it. This one is called the data driver. It's the evidence-based decision maker. So this persona relies heavily on metrics, analytics, and concrete evidence to validate decisions, preferring proof over intuition. So before implementing leadership initiatives...
Just go ahead and answer it. Go ahead and answer it.
I'm going to let you do it, right? First, let me get my questions out here, right? So before implementing your leadership initiatives, I ask myself, what data and feedback do we have that demonstrates the effectiveness of these programs? I want to see measurable improvements in leadership behaviors, team performance, and business outcomes to validate our approach. Go ahead and give it to them, John. Go ahead and give it to them.
That's not a decision maker. That's another person that should be at the table.
That's it.
I want the data. I want the facts. I want the information, but I also want to look at core values, the industry, all the other stuff. And we go from knowledge to wisdom.
Come on.
Data is knowledge.
Ooh.
It's just there. You can interpret a lot of different ways. What do they call it? Statistics. You can look at numbers a lot of different ways, and they're critical. Challenge them, never make a good decision without solid, realistic, dependable data.
Yeah.
But what I'm about to say here too is, I hate using cliches, but paralysis by analysis. One of the things when I teach decision making is set a date and say, we're going to collect data until Tuesday the 10th. Mm-hmm. And then we're going to make the decision on the afternoon of Tuesday the 10th. We're not going to say, unless it's critical, we're not going to say, well, let's just collect a little bit more data. While you're sitting there trying to collect more data, your competition's made the decision and is going, or the market has made the decision for you and you're lost. I've seen a lot of companies make bad decisions because they wanted to make them now, a sense of got it done, when actually waiting a few days or a week, they would have made a much better decision, or waiting too long, constantly gathering data. And while they're doing that, their competition has already gotten to the market, sold the stuff, and cornered the market.
Yeah, that makes sense. That impulsiveness is also not a winning strategy either. Totally makes sense. Hey, listen, that's just fun for me. So I got you at 100,000. That's okay.
That's exactly right.
I love it. And I loved your explanations. And I think that they'll be super useful for our listening audience. So as we wrap up this conversation, I've got one final question for you. Going back to the fact that you've helped so many organizations across so many industries to literally improve their leadership, improve their strategy, and then improve their execution. And you've done this for over 30 years. If you could give one piece of advice to leaders who might be looking to elevate their impact as a leader, they might be looking to improve and get to a level of sustainable growth as an organization, what would that advice be?
Wow, one piece. That's brutal.
Just one.
Brutal. I would encourage them to create a culture of learning, to be a lifelong learner. As someone I just told you who reads, constantly, the answers aren't in the books, but the information to get to the answers is in the books and the podcasts and the other things. Like today, someone, might have picked up a nugget of gold from this today that will help them make better decisions, create better leaders. So to me, it's dedicating yourself to lifelong learning and then creating a culture where everybody's learning and they're helping each other and sharing information, sending each other articles, links to podcasts and everything. That culture is going to be able to, I look at like private equity firms. They want the idea to be solid. They want the numbers to be good, but they invest in people, not in ideas and numbers.
Good stuff, and factual as well. So thank you for sharing that, John. It has been such a pleasure to have you on this show. I really appreciate how you approach things. Would you share with everybody where they can learn more about you and more about your company?
John, it's very innovative. Ready?
Yeah.
johnspence.com. Wow. Had to bring in an advertising firm for that one. Actually, I used to own one, so we were able to do it. Yeah, John, and then my email is john@johnspence.com. I answer all my own emails personally. So if there's something in the show you've got a question about or you want some feedback, and on my website, there's a ton of free resources, videos, books, white papers. But if and I always like to say, if I don't have the answer, I can find somebody who does.
That is fantastic. Thank you. And to our listeners, we want to thank you. Thank you for tuning in. And remember, the best decisions come from great conversations. If you have enjoyed this episode, we'd love for you to subscribe, rate it, share it with your network. Let's keep the conversation going on social media using Dynamic Decisions Podcast. And until next time, we want you to keep questioning, keep growing, and keep leading with purpose.